Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland, and in this episode, we'll be reviewing the legendary GS-4 seat from Sim Experience. Now, I've been running this seat for about 3.5 years now, and I've tried it mounted to a static rig as well as a motion rig, so I have a lot of perspective on the capabilities of this piece of race car simulation hardware. I'll be sharing that with you as we go along. So let's get to it. The GS-4 seat is based on a real racing seat made by Kirky. Now, this, you can see the cover on here is a pretty simple cover. Just has a couple of tabs on each side of the seat. You pull them loose, and the whole thing comes off as a one-piece unit. Now, throughout this seat cover is about an 1/8 inch of foam padding. And the top here is some kind of a cotton twill. Feels really good, actually. And this cover, as you can see, is in pretty good condition. It's in very good condition, actually. And I've been using the seat for 3.5 years, and I've had a lot of people in and out of this seat. So this cover is really wearing quite well. Now, there's some actual extra foam in this seat, and on the bottom, thank goodness, there's another piece of foam in here that's about a 1/2 inch thick. You see the blue stuff here, and that's in the entire bottom. Also, up here on the rib cage wing, there's some more foam in there also. It's for reinforcement. Good thing about this cover is, and I've done this, I just don't have it showing you right now, is you can actually cut pieces of foam and insert them in here, and it'll still fit over these wings here on the seat, and it'll give you more foam over here to pad you if you want to tighten up the seat a little bit. As you can see, this is a pretty wide seat. Now, if you want to also, you can put some foam down in the bottom of the seat, and I've done that also. I actually had cut out some furniture foam, medium density, 1 inch, and just velcroed it to the metal panels themselves. And I've taken all that off for the video that while I'm doing the review. Or you can just lay one piece down here. It's just on long sessions with this particular seat cover. For me personally, I just needed a little more cushion. You can still feel the panels through the actual foam, but you can't feel them obviously as well if you just ran it without the foam and just this seat alone, which I've done also. Now, talking about the panels, first off, these are aluminum plate, about an 1/8 inch. Now, these are cut aluminum, so they do have some sharp edges on them. If you're working around the seat or doing any repairs to it or maintenance, then you can cut yourself on here. Don't ask me how I know. The seat itself is an aluminum affair, and this is a black anodized unit. I ordered it that way. And typically they'll come in the silver. You'll see a lot of them in silver. I ordered mine in black anodized, and so Pat was kind enough to get that done. He also did that to the seat brackets down here too. Now, this is a bolted together aluminum seat. You can see here, this pan for the bottom is actually, it's got a bolt here, and it's got a bolt over here. And typically in the seams where this thing is bolted up, you would see it welded for a real race seat. And also, the back part here, this whole back part, not including the headrest, is bolted to the bottom, obviously, but it's also got the headrest bolts up here where you actually are bolting this headrest. And this allows you to disassemble this seat for easy shipping, or easier shipping, than you normally would. When I got the seat, it was shipped as the bottom and the back assembled, and I had to assemble this part, which made it a shorter unit when shipping. What else can we talk about here? Well, you can see we got the power supply on the back here, and we've got the control board under this metal cover, and we've got some metal covers hiding our servos back here. And of course, that's for protective purposes. Pat was smart enough to know that if somebody might be banging things up against these servos, not only that, but inside of those servos, I don't know if you can see it here, but we'll get a better closer look later on. Their servo arms are in there, and we do not want to hurt those servo arms or bang anything against those, because that would make things really bad for the synchronization and the calibration of the servos. And we'll probably break them too, of course. Other than that, what we'll do is not much else to see here as far as you got your seat brackets here. I did do one thing here on the seat brackets. Because this is mounted to a motion rig, my Stage 4 rig, I actually put a reinforcing 1/8 inch aluminum angle in here. You can see that right there. And that just enforces or gives it more structural integrity right here in this L of the original 1/8 inch aluminum bracket. So it just made it a little more stiff for the side-to-side motion, because this seat was getting shoved by the actuators over here on the Sim Experience Stage 4 rig. So I just wanted to enforce it a little bit because I thought I could feel some flex from side to side, even though the seat itself has this bar in it, which helps with flex also. But I just wanted to beef it up a little bit, so I went ahead and just bolted those to the original seat mounting rails, and it worked out pretty well. It did tighten things up a bit. And I guess that's about it for our overall view of the seat. What I'm going to do next is go ahead and pull the covers off of the servos here. And once we take a look at that and see how the panels are actually working up here, and you can see when this thing is not powered up, you can actually move the panels themselves. But I wouldn't recommend it unless you really had to, but for general purposes, I'm familiar with these servos and how everything works, so I'm pretty easy on moving it. And you want to just be shoving this thing around to the limitations of the servos, because then you can mess things up. So what we'll do is we'll pull the covers off so we can see the servos and the servo arms and the connecting rods and how they work. And we'll also go ahead and pull the cover off the controller board and see all the things that are going on inside there. So that's what we'll do next. All right, so we have the covers off the servos now. And again, we can see that we have 2 pairs of servos on each side, so that's 4 servos per panel. Now I'm going to turn this sideways so you guys can get a little look here at how this thing is working. And if you push the panel back and forth, and this is pushing it towards the body, you can see all 4 of those servos are moving in unison, which is what you want. If they were opposed and pulling against each other, it wouldn't work very well. So very cool the way this thing is working. Now, if we look on the bottom, it's the same setup. You can see there's 4 servos, 2 each side, or rather 4 servos each side, grouped in 2, so a total of 8 on the bottom also. Now, these don't have covers on them. Pat figured didn't need them because you're going to have the mounting brackets on here, and they're going to be above the mounting brackets, so you really shouldn't have anything stuck up under there causing interference for those servo arms. Right? So let's take a quick look at one of those servos. And this is let's get a little closer here for you. See if we can get it to focus. A high-tech, high-speed, HS for high-speed, 805 MG. Now the MG stands for Metal Gear Servo. Now I've been an RC enthusiast for a long, long time, flying everything from planes to jets to helicopters, and really Metal Gear Servos is all I've ever used. And you find out quickly that that's what you need if you're flying things, because if you crash them, those plastic gear servos don't last very long. In fact, usually, well, the first crash, they're no good anymore. Now, these are more expensive servos, and in this application, probably not necessary. It's just something that I couldn't get past, and I had to have the Metal Gear servos when I told Pat to build my seat. The plastic gears probably work fine on this seat or in this application, like I said before, because there's no heavy impacts on this servo when it's being utilized. But anyway, I always thought that, well, might as well get the metal gears because I like the metal gears turning instead of the plastic. But again, as far as performance parameters are concerned, really no effect. Okay, so what we'll do next is go ahead and pull the cover off here, this bottom one, and that's where the control panel is. And we'll take a look at the control panel and get a close-up look of all that stuff, and of course the power supply. All right, so now we have the controller board cover off, and you can see the controller board is still connected to it. There's actually 4 screws on the back of the cover there that actually hold that board to the cover. Now let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit here and get a better look. Yeah, that should do it. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of spaghetti going on here with all these wires. But of course, having 16 servos on the seat, we are going to have a lot of wires in here to be connecting to the controller board. And if you look inside of here on this side, you can see the header exposed there where there are no plugs, and then some plugs going into a series of plugs on the next header down there. I'll try to turn this sideways so you can get a better look at it. So we've got 16 servo plugs on the other header. Now, I have an extra board here. And in case you're wondering why I have an extra board, I had to replace this board. it had gone bad. The computer was not recognizing it anymore, so I had to replace the board. And as I replaced the board, actually, which was a good thing, because I had to look at all the other servos, or I had an opportunity to test all the other servos, and I found a few that were no good. So I was able to replace those and restore my seat to 100% original functionality, which again is a testament to the design of the seat, that it's easy to maintain. Yeah, things might go bad on it, things might break, servos go bad, the board might go bad, but at least it's easy to fix it. And a lot of instructions are on the site, the website, on how to do that. But here's how I did it. I just took it, and the headers down here, let me get a little closer here so you can see them. Give me some focus. Here we go. The headers over here are the 16 headers, and they're numbered 0, back down here, over to 15. So that gives us 16 servos possible to control with this board. It's a Servo Center 4.1 board made by Yoast Engineering, and you can see the Servo Center 4.1 in your devices and drivers on your computer if the chair is installed on your rig and it's running properly and all the drivers installed. That's what you'll see. Right. So all I did, and it was pretty simple. Instead of trying to unplug them all at once, I just unplugged one servo off of the board that was attached once I took it off. And then I would just move that plug to the corresponding plug over here on the new board. And then once I had all the plugs in, then it was a simple matter of bolting the board back in, setting a jumper according to Pat Dobson's instructions, and then calibrating all the servos again, and we were off and running. Pretty cool. Again, it's easy to do this kind of thing, which is great because this will give this chair a long lifetime as far as being able to run. You can run for years. I've had, like I said before, I've had this seat for over 3.5 years, and something finally went wrong with it. And I don't know how long the servos I replaced were bad, but it was nice to be able to go in and check and see that I had a problem with the servo too, so I could replace them. Again, getting everything running in its original condition. But I love a chair or any piece of equipment that is able to let you work on it and replace things quite easily, actually, and get it back online without having to send it back to someone. Right. So we have a Meanwell power supply here. And it is a, let's see if I can turn this around so you guys get a look at it. I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but let's see. Try not to drop the seat off my workbench, then I have to fix it again. All right, so now, again, it's hard to see the actual power supply in here. Number one, I'm too much of a up angle, but there we go. There it is. Now, Meanwell is an industry standard power supply. It's a very good one. Highly recommended by a lot of people when they build stuff. And you can see the model number there when I get the wires out of the way. And that's a S3205. And again, just your power, your standard power supply. That's an integrated unit that bolted on. And of course, he's got some wires coming off the power supply to power the servos. And you don't have to power the controller board off of that because it runs off the USB power. Right, so that's the internals. That's how everything works. And what we'll do next, really, I'm just going to put everything back together, get it all sewn back together, and then what we'll do is we'll drive it in the rig. Or actually what I'm going to do is not drive it in the rig because really you can't see what's going on if I'm sitting in the seat. So I'm going to have the seat sitting next to the rig, and I'm going to drive it, and we can watch everything as it works. We'll get to that next. Okay, we're at Circuit Park Zandvoort, and we're in the C6R GT1 Corvette. And I thought the best way to do this was let you see me driving around the track and see the corners and the braking that I'm doing and watch the panel's reaction to that in real time. So as you can see coming around this corner, the panels on the left and right will be squeezing me for G-forces. And the two panels will work together if I'm going around a corner. And they'll work separately of each other if I'm going over road bumps. And you can see some road bumps right there. The actual bottom panels will simulate the road bumps, which is really cool. You can feel it in your wheel too because we have force feedback wheels. And of course I can feel it in the motion sim. But you can't get the same feeling as you can with the paddles actually pushing the bottom of your thighs when you're going over road bumps. Now here in a braking situation, you see where those panels just come up in braking situation. And as I'm going up to the next brakes, you watch both these panels will squeeze up, and there they go. Now what that's doing again is giving me that braking sensation. Now we'll talk about the actual panels doing the G-force simulation. As we'll come down here, we'll do a braking to a real tight hairpin, and you'll see me do a right turn. When you do a right turn, you'll see the left panels come up and press against my body. And the reason the left panels come up is if I was turning to the right, I would actually, the G-forces would be pushing me to the left. And so that simulates you being pushed up to the left side of your seat would be the left side panels, like right there, pushing up against your body. Now, of course, if I'm going left, then the opposite is going to apply. If I'm turning to the left, then the right side panels will actually squeeze me in the same way that the left panels are. So there's a lot of right turns in Zandvoort. So you'll see the left panels pair working more here than you will the right side. But you'll also see the bottom panels working as far as road textures. Now, I don't have the road textures turned up to very much, and that's why you don't see them bob a lot. But again, all of this can be set up in the wonderful Sim Commander software to do just about anything you want to within limits, of course. And you can dial in more road bumps so the panels move even further on any bumps in the road. And you'll see them twitching a little bit just watching them right there. Of course, I'm breaking through there. But anytime I'm going over a curb or a road bump, you'll see the panels are actually going to move also. And again, it gives you the texture of the road that, well, you just can't get anywhere else. Even with a D-box system, the texture of the road is there because it can move vertically, but it's not the same type of feeling that you get with these panels moving against your thighs. Quite unique to anything else, really. Now, as we're going around corners and we're getting squeezed left and we're getting squeezed on the right side, depending on which corner we're taking, again, you can see a little bump in the bottom panels there when I was going over some of the rough road, and that just again is giving me some texture. It really gets you involved in the game or the simulation more than just about anything else I can think of, because nothing else can provide you with that G simulation. Now, you'll see the seat, the Sparko seat I'm in now, when I go around a left hand or a right hand turn, and that was a right hand, I get shoved to the left so that it gives me that momentary millisecond feeling like I'm actually pulling some G-forces. But once the seat is in that position, you're really not pulling any more G-forces. Now, you put the GS-4 seat on top of that, then you've got a system. Even though it's kind of a diminishing return, because now you got the systems working together, but you're not feeling it as much as you normally would because, well, your body has all these inputs coming in, and you'll never feel everything all together as sharp or as acutely as you would if you had just one system running. Like just the seat, I can feel things a lot crisper than if I had the GS-4 seat on there. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of like one cancels out the other a little bit, but they do work together, so it's a great feeling when you have everything working together. Or if you have this seat sitting in a static rig, it's going to feel great there too, because now nothing's moving except your panels, and now you feel very acutely what the panels are doing. I hope you get what I'm trying to say there. So when you have all this other stuff going on, it's kind of hard to feel as acutely one thing because you got all these other things that are in unison or working with it in unison together. Now, let's take another review here. And this is the seat still running in the vet. And now I'm going to show you a down shot here of showing the connecting rod that's actually connected to the back of the panel. And of course, we can see the servo arms working here also. Just to give you an idea of the range that these panels are going as far as moving. Look at that. It's just moving way out there. That's a good, 3 inches or so of movement. So it gives you an idea of just how much you can feel these panels squeezing you when you're making those turns. And I wanted to get the shot like this just to give you an idea of just how far they're traveling, even though you can get a general idea from the bottom panels if you watch those. There's nothing like looking straight down like on a shot like this and just seeing how far those things can go out and just how they can shove you or press against you and give you that nudge to give you that, just for a moment, that feeling like you're actually pulling some G's when you're going around those corners. All right, well, I guess we've seen enough of the driving and the panels moving and me talking about it. So what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and fade out while we're still driving and get to the final thoughts on the GS-4 seat. Final thoughts on the GS-4 G seat. First, my hat is off to Pat Dobson. He pretty much single-handedly brought the G seat to market. The design, the engineering, and the final implementation of this G seat concept is nothing short of genius. When I bought my G seat, Pat was building these seats himself. He was very accommodating as far as my order on the custom options and developing some seat brackets. Really, it's just a pleasure to deal with Pat. Now, let's talk about some of the cons of this seat. And as you might imagine, well, there aren't many cons. First is the price. If memory serves me, I paid around $2,300 for my seat, including the custom options that I wanted. Now, that's not inexpensive by any means, but I feel that the G seat is just one of those things that are worth it. Second con is the size of the seat itself. From panel to panel over here, this seat is 17 inches wide. The footprint of my bottom is 12 inches wide. So even when I stuff some foam into the sides of the seat cover over here, it's still way too wide for me if I wanted a snug fit. But if you look at all of the hardware that's on this seat, then it's easy to see why it needs to be this wide. Well, maybe you could eliminate some of the gap in between the panels here, but then again, it wouldn't make it that much more narrow, so it really kind of irrelevant when it comes to my body type. Third con, this con is only if you mount the seat to a motion rig, and that con is weight. This seat weighs about 38 pounds. This adds to the mass that the motion actuators have to move. So in turn, it tends to dampen the effect of the actuators when compared to a lighter seat, like the Sparco over here is currently mounted to my rig. Fourth con, and again this is only a con if the seat is mounted to a motion rig, is that this seat, as we saw before, is bolted together. And there is some flex in this seat when the motion actuators actually push on it. So I hope the GS5 seat is welded to eliminate this issue. Fifth con, and again, only when mounted to a motion rig, the panels didn't feel completely in sync with the motion of the seat being caused by the actuators back here. It's really not that bad, and I don't usually notice it unless I'm trying to. I think this is caused by the way the SimCommander software interacts with the Servo Center controller board. Now there's two different types of servos here. We got regular servo, analog servos pushing on the panels, and we've got some different servos over here on the sim rig. So when they're meshing all this stuff together, I'm sure it's hard to get it sorted out. But I'm also sure they'll have it sorted out with the GS5 seat. Now for the pros. Well, there's a lot of them. There isn't another sim racing seat out there that can do what the GS4 seat can do. It allows you to feel like you're really going around a turn. When you turn your car and these panels press against your body just enough to fool you into think that you're in a real car, at least for a second or two. And it's not just about when you turn. The panels allow you to feel braking pressure, acceleration, and road texture and bumps. I remember the first time I ran a fast car at Mount Panorama Circuit with a G-seat. My stomach actually jumped when the car went over that big drop-off that's on the straight that approaches the mountain climb part of that circuit. Simply amazing. This seat, to me, is worth every penny, considering what it brings to the table. All its parts are easy to replace. It's not very difficult to recalibrate, so this seat could serve you well for, well, a lot of years. One of the better sim racing hardware purchases I think I've ever made. So, if you can find one, buy it. If you can't find one, then you'll just have to wait for the new GS5 seat to go on sale, which, rumor has it, could be released sometime in the first quarter of 2017. I'm Barry Rowland, and thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel.